Growing up, I grew up in a pretty stable home, but some of my very first memories when I was in like kindergarten age, I can remember doing things with dolls and things that were not things that normal kindergartners would do. I remember it vividly and feeling shame because I knew what I was doing wasn't something I was supposed to be doing. And then in high school, things changed a little bit and I grew up and kids started to notice me, but not for the reasons that they were noticing me when I was in middle school. Boys started to like me. The very kids that were making fun of me at the bus stop now wanted to be my friends. In my sophomore year of high school, some girls from school invited me to go to a party with them. So I went to the party with my friends, and when I was there, one of the most popular boys in the school raped me. And afterwards, I told my best friend, and he said, "Why would he have done that to you? He could have had sex with anybody." And I then told my youth pastor, and she looked me square in the face and said, "See, if you'd never gone to that party, that would have never happened." And so I made a decision in my mind that I didn't really like church, and I really didn't want to follow God, and I was going to hell anyway. And so I took a pretty drastic change in my behaviors. And I started becoming more promiscuous, and at 15, found myself pregnant. When my boyfriend's mom found out, she said, "Well, we're gonna go have an abortion." And so she drove me to an abortion clinic, pulled up outside, handed me a wad of money, and said, "I'll be back in a couple hours to pick you up." And so I went in alone at 15 and had my first abortion. And that day changed my life. It changed everything for me because there was a part of me that died when I did that. I was treated like a cow going to slaughter. It's not a human compassion kind of thing. It wasn't treated like, we're doing this to help you. It was, you've signed up for this, you've given us your money, sit down, do what we've got to do, and be quiet. So I left there feeling dead inside and began doing drugs and began drinking. And then my senior year of high school, I got pregnant again and had another abortion. Same experience, only worse because this time I was much further along when I had my abortion. So I had a second trimester abortion. And so that was a much more intense experience. But at that point I was doing drugs and drinking, and in my mind, I was already killing the baby. And so it wasn't even really an option. I got very, very skinny. I was also anorexic and bulimic. And doing drugs, and so I got down to probably 105 pounds. So it was obvious to anybody that saw me that there was something going on. So what I did was I just stopped hanging out with my parents, stopped calling them, stopped going over to their house, stopped seeing them, because I knew if they saw me, they would know what was happening. I worked in strip clubs and started dealing and doing a lot of crystal meth. The things that I was seeing and the levels of depravity in those areas was something I'd never witnessed before. So during that time when bad stuff would happen, which it did on a regular basis, I actually got raped again by one of the other drug dealers, people ODing, the car getting blown up, our house getting broken into. When all of those things happened, I didn't have anything to do or to go to, so my coping mechanism was more drugs, more alcohol, harder drugs, harder alcohol, and that was how we would get through. I mean, there was no moment where I was sober. We would wake up and start drinking and start doing drugs before we got out of the bed, and would do that until we passed out, basically. And started dating a guy, because that's my pattern, it's always one guy to the next. And he was also a drug dealer, and we began living that lifestyle again. I was looking for a job and saw in the classifieds that there was a women's center that was hiring, and became a receptionist at the clinic that I first went to for my very first abortion. And the interesting thing about working in that clinic is getting the perspective from the other side of the glass. As somebody who works there, we edited magazines. When a magazine would come in, we would look through the magazine, and any pictures of babies or diapers or kids or anything that might trigger someone to say, I'd like to have this baby, we would cut out. So I was there for not very long because I was still drinking and was still doing drugs, and it's hard to keep a steady job when you're doing those things. I found out that I was pregnant. My boyfriend left, and then he calls me and says, look, I want you to come, but if you come and you're pregnant, I'm gonna leave you where you are. So you need to get an abortion. I was in a place where it was like, I love him, he doesn't want me to have this kid, so I had another abortion. The boyfriend and I had a very violent relationship and realized that this just wasn't working. And I came home to the apartment and he was completely upset and we got into a fight. And there was a point in the fight where we had ripped the door off of the door frame, and I remember him sitting on top of me, straddling me with a broken 2x4 from the door frame in his hand, and he was about to hit me over the head with it. And for some reason, like literally mid-swing, he drops the board and he punches me in the face, breaks my nose, blackens my eyes, and there was blood everywhere. And as he's doing that, he looks and realizes, oh my goodness, I've really hurt her. And so he stops the fight. And we, kind of broke up the fight and went our separate ways that evening. And then the next morning, I wake up and my phone has like 10 text messages and phone calls from my dad. And my dad meets me at my boyfriend's parents' house to pick me and the U-Haul up. And when I get out of the vehicle, he sees me, and I have 2 black eyes, my nose is crooked, and he starts bawling and grabs me, puts me in the car, and is still just crying, like, Dad, it was a car accident, sorry, that's why I didn't call you, because I was in an accident. And he looks at me and he says, Kelly, 2 nights ago, I was sleeping and the Lord woke me up and I had a vision of you laying dead on the floor with your head split wide open. And I began to pray. And I realized that at the moment when my boyfriend dropped the board, it was because of my dad's prayers. And I finally go back to church and I'm sitting in the front pew of my dad's church and I hear the Lord say, have you had enough? And I'm like, but God, you don't know what I've done. Like, how could you, what am I gonna do now? Like, how can I be a Christian? How can I do these things when the past that I have and the things that I've done? I've been a drug dealer. I've been raped several times. I've had numerous abortions. I've worked in an abortion clinic. I've been a prostitute. I've been as low as you could possibly go. And I heard the Lord say, have you had enough? I've done this. And he said, have you had enough? And I heard him say, Kelly, if you will live for me, I will make beauty from ashes. And I will work all this so that I will make it beautiful. As long as I was with this guy, I was never going to get the guy that the Lord really had for me. And so I cut all ties with him, changed my email, changed my phone, stopped seeing him entirely. And then 2 months later, I was on MySpace. A guy that I had gone to high school with pops up on MySpace. So I went onto his MySpace page and he had just gotten back from a missions trip to Korea. And I thought, Robbie Lester got saved? Oh my goodness. And I had been saved too. And so I sent him a message and I'm like, Robbie, this is Kelly Watkins. You won't believe this, but I got saved. How did you get saved? And so he called me and I hung up the phone and I looked at my best friend and I said, I think I just talked to the man I'm gonna marry. We continued to talk on the phone for like 2-3 hours a night. So he comes home 2 weeks after that, because it was Christmas time, and proposes. And 2 months later, we got married. There were things from my past that I didn't realize were affecting me that now were coming back up and began to affect me. And there was a time where I was brought back to that memory of me as a young child and doing the things with the toys and my mom coming in and that experience. And I was like, God, what was that? Like, what was going on? And why did I go to a lifestyle of like I did? Why did all of these things? Why did I do those kinds of things? And he took me to that memory, and I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I had been molested as a very young child. That led to why, as a kindergartner, I was doing inappropriate things. That led to why, as a middle schooler, I was super insecure and super shy and never felt safe and never felt like I belonged. And that led to, as a high schooler, looking for love and looking for all these things. That was why I didn't trust God. And because God didn't protect me as a child, and so I didn't trust him. And so that was kind of the groundwork for all of my beliefs, that then being raped, again, I don't trust God. And all of these things just fed into that belief and that reality. And I was like, God, you told me that you would make beauty from ashes. You told me that you would make my story beautiful. How can this be beautiful? How can this experience be beautiful? I was a child. Like, how can these things be made beautiful? And he said, trust me. And I was like, oh yeah, trust you, because that's worked really well so far, trusting you. And I just kept hearing that, trust me. The years went on, and little by little, I began to trust the Lord more. And I began to see him show up when things happened that seemed impossible, and he would come through. We packed up at that time. We had now 4 children and moved to Fredericksburg. A friend sent me a job posting for Choices Women's Center. And the moment that I stepped in for the interview, I felt like I was at home, and I felt like I was with family. And it was this very strange moment of feeling like your entire life has led up to this moment. And I could see where the experiences in my life had prepared me for this moment. As I have been doing this job, I've been speaking about what happened to me, and speaking about my experiences with abortion, and speaking about the healing that I've gotten from that. And that is how the Lord is making beauty from ashes. Because as I'm ministering what happened to me, there are women who are getting healing. And there are women who feel shame and feel guilt and feel condemnation because they've done it. And these are not women outside of the church. These are women sitting in the church that are going, oh my goodness, I'm not alone. There is hope if you've had an abortion. And statistics show that many of the women and men in churches have had abortions. And I want you to know that there is hope and there is healing for you after that. And not only is there hope and there is healing for you after that, but that you have a purpose to help others and to bring hope to other people. I think the turning point for me, from going from believing that an abortion was okay to believing that abortion is not okay and being pro-life, happened when I believed that the Lord loved me, and began to feel truth, and began to believe truth, and feel like I am valuable, I am worthwhile, I'm loved, I'm accepted. You have the choice of whether you're going to choose a path that does not cause death, or you have a choice to cause a path that brings life to you and to the baby that you're holding.